call to action to protect our planet's rich biodiversity. Join us for critical insights and let's stand united for biodiversity.
Welcome to another episode of United for Biodiversity, the Alliance podcast. I am your host, Guyana Wilberg. In my presence today is a very distinguished guest. He is the Senior Minister with Responsibility for Finance and Public Service, Dr. Ashni Singh. Dr. Singh, welcome to our podcast. Thank you for taking the time to be here.
Thank you very much, Kian. It's a great pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Indeed. Now, we're here at the landmark Global Biodiversity Alliance Summit happening at the Arthur Chung Conference Center. Tell us about your perspective on the importance of this new chapter and what it means for the evolution of Guyana's green leadership.
Sure. So, first of all, once again, like I said, thank you very much for inviting me. And secondly, let me say what a great pleasure and privilege it is to be able to participate in the opening ceremony of the Global Biodiversity Alliance Summit. As you know, President Ali has just addressed the opening ceremony. And in his address, he spoke of how pleased he is and how pleased Guyana is to be convening this extremely important summit and this extremely important alliance. And I want to start perhaps from that departure point. Mm-hmm. For a number of years, Guyana has provided outstanding leadership on issues of climate change and issues of environmental sustainability. And that leadership is particularly associated with, of course, President Ali's presidency and previously President Jagdeo's presidency. It was during President Jagdeo's presidency that Guyana's first low-carbon development strategy was articulated and launched. Mm-hmm. And it was during President Ali's presidency that the updated low-carbon development strategy 2030 was concluded and launched. Right. And under those two successive LCDSs, although they really are not two separate products. Mm-hmm. One is really just the second generation of the first. Mm-hmm. But under those two successive generations of the low carbon development strategy, Guyana has articulated an innovative vision mm-hmm. for low carbon development, and in particular, the preservation of forests and the leveraging of forest assets towards the realization of a low carbon development trajectory. It is, as you know better than most, as many of your viewers would know, it is under the low carbon development strategy that our standing forests have been recognized for the value that they provide to the world, the environmental and climate services that they provide to the rest of the world, and that those services have been monetized, that we've been able to earn revenue from those services.
Yes.
It was under the first generation LCDS that we earned, of course, $250 million under the historic partnership with the Kingdom of Norway. And it's under the new LCDS that we've been able to obtain our trees certification, the first jurisdiction scale art tree certification, the first certification under the CORSIA standard, the UN CORSIA standard, and under which we've been able to conclude successive transactions selling our carbon credits. And so what this latest installment demonstrates is Guyana's continued leadership, global leadership, and continued provision of intellectual and thought leadership, not just the use of our convening power as a country,
Yes.
but also the provision of intellectual and thought leadership in confronting some of the world's most pressing problems. And if I might say so, there are few problems more pressing. There is perhaps none more pressing than that of climate change and its consequences for standing forests, not only the role of standing forests in fighting climate change, but also the consequences of climate change for standing forests, and the challenges of preserving the world's endowment of the world's still vast endowment of biodiversity. We in Guyana have a unique and very special position that for a small country we have a disproportionately vast endowment of biodiversity assets. We are home to a vast array and range of flora and fauna, bird species, animal species, plant species. And all of these, not just Guyana's endowment, but the global endowment of biodiversity assets, plants, flora, fauna, plant and animal species, etc. Not only do they provide valuable economic services, but they are an extremely integral part of maintaining global balance. They're an extremely, not just extremely important, but they are an indispensable part of or an indispensable prerequisite for the preservation of the balance in the global ecosystem. And so we have a shared responsibility as a global community to address our minds to preserving and protecting these assets. And it is Guyana's privilege once again to play a role in providing the leadership that is necessary, both the convening power, but also the intellectual and thought leadership in confronting this challenge.
Minister Singh, we heard this morning from the President that the time has come for us to cease admiring the problem and to begin the conversation of crafting solutions, pragmatic solutions. Your thoughts on Guyana's track record in ensuring that that task is accomplished?
Well, I'm absolutely glad that you highlight that point that was made by the President. I took note of it too, and it's not the first time that the President has said it. It's something that he's repeated on multiple occasions. And it's something that we've been saying for a long time. We don't want to present ourselves as victims of the problem. We want not only to be a part of the solution to the problem, but we are committed to being proactive in helping to find and craft the solution to the problem. It would have been very easy to say standing forests are standing there, their services are not valued, and to beat our chests and to lament this problem, the problem that standing forests provide such a valuable solution and are such an important part of the global matrix of solutions to the problem of climate change, but they're not remunerated, its value is not recognized. It would have been very easy. It would have been the lazy man's task simply to lament that problem. We were not content as a government. We were not content simply to engage in lamentations of the problem. We wanted instead, like I said, to be part of the solution, but indeed to help in crafting a solution. And so we proactively got international consultancy firms to come in. We got McKinsey to come in and do work for us in valuing the economic, in estimating the economic value of our standing forests to the world and the economic value of the forest to the nation. We developed the low carbon development strategy. We were at the forefront of arguing that this service has to be valued and it has to be compensated and remunerated. And we were at the forefront of advocating the development of appropriate instruments, by which this can be done, which of course was part of the advocacy efforts that ultimately resulted in the development of carbon credits, the development of an institutional architecture to document what you're achieving in terms of forest preservation. We developed, for example, the MRV system, the monitoring, recording, and verification system. At a time when a market for carbon credits didn't exist, we recognized how important it was to monitor and record and verify what you were doing and what you had in terms of your standing forests. Putting the institutional prerequisites in place. And so in exactly the same manner, we recognize that perhaps today appropriate instruments don't exist, or they don't exist in the way that they need to exist in order to serve this cause and this objective of preserving biodiversity and averting the loss of the irreversible loss of biodiversity. Perhaps those instruments don't exist, but the responsibility is ours to help to craft those instruments, to help to devise solutions. And in exactly the same manner in which the world was able to devise the concept of a carbon credit, and in exactly the same manner in which the world recognized the need for these carbon credits to be certified and to be part of, for there to be global standards, for there to be a certification process, and then for there to emerge a market for certified credits. In exactly the same manner, you would have heard the president speak about biodiversity credits. And so this is yet another example of us applying, like I said, applying our intellectual assets to the devising of solutions instead of simply being content with lamenting the problem. And this characterizes our government. This is why we are at the forefront of global debates on climate security, on energy security, on food security. This is why we're providing the kind of leadership that we are, because our president and our government, we're not contented simply with repeating and regurgitating and lamenting problems. Instead, we want to find solutions. And we adopt that posture in relation to global challenges, and we adopt that posture to national issues as well. We are committed to realizing the development of our country and the upliftment of our people, and we're not content simply with repeating that in a manner that I've described elsewhere as sloganeering. Instead, our preference is to find practical solutions that will advance this cause. And that is as much our posture on global issues as it is on national issues.
To close, Minister Singh, it's safe to say that Guyana might be small, but our impact is mighty.
No, absolutely. There are lots of phrases that are used. People speak about punching above your weight class and all of those phrases. I do believe that we do punch above our weight class. But we're less concerned about, we're not doing this because, we want to be applauded or to be celebrated for packing a heavy punch or anything like that. To be frank with you, we are more motivated by the fact that this is a problem that needs a solution. And if we can help to realize a solution, then that's a good thing. And so we're more concerned with, pushing the world along and pushing ourselves towards, devising a solution. If along the way we get some credit for it, that's great, but that's not our motivation. Our motivation is really to find a solution. But you're absolutely correct that as a country, as a small country, we're certainly at the forefront of the effort to find solutions to these problems, and we're proud of the fact that we're doing so, and we're committed to continuing to exerting every effort to ensuring that we are able to find these solutions.
Minister Singh, I want to thank you for sharing your insights on what is poised to be an important chapter in Guyana's legacy of green leadership. So thank you once again.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Guyana. Thank you very much. It's my great pleasure to be here again.
To our audience, we will continue to bring you more insights, so stay tuned. This is day one of the Global Biodiversity Alliance Summit.
Thank you for listening to United for Biodiversity, the Alliance podcast. Be sure to follow us for more insightful episodes on our Spotify, LinkedIn, and Facebook accounts.